Hello, and welcome to the Pert Ale, a solo basic fantasy RPG podcast. I am your host, GM Wolfgang. Last we left off, our party had just defeated 5 goblins in a northern corridor in the old island fortress. Prior to that, we had encountered some yellow mold that was surrounding the dead body of our recruit, of Magenhild's recruit, Norin Furmoon. And the party wisely backed out of this and decided that they were not going to investigate any further because we had a couple of party members chime in and say, hey, that stuff's dangerous. That stuff could kill us. And so the party backed out. That's when we decided to go north, and that's when we encountered the goblins, and we absolutely just slew them. The initial ambush that we took did not go so well, but we ultimately recovered with some sword and axe action. So, let's just pick up where we left off, and let me pull up the map. Okay, so I have regrouped the party, as we see here, and I have the goblins right here. They are grouped as well, and then they have our nice little dead ring around them. Can't mistake them for anything else. And so now we need to figure out, do we want to do anything with the goblins? Do we want to move the bodies and stash them somewhere so that we don't run into some issue that they're discovered later? Or does the party want to leave them? This can be a bit of an issue, just leaving dead bodies lying around. But do our PCs really want to get into that kind of thing? Do they want to bother? On top of that, we also have the Goblin Kobold skirmish to consider. And leaving these bodies here might just get chalked up to casualties of a conflict between these two sides, these two entities. So let's consult the Oracle, and we will figure out whether or not the party wants to move the bodies. And I'm kind of torn here. I'm torn between saying yes, they do want to because they are on high alert and they don't want any unnecessary attention brought in their direction, but at the same time, they're kind of green themselves. You know, I talked about how this recruit over here was really green being at age 17, but we're all level 1 adventurers, so maybe there's a high probability of no. That they're not really concerned about patrols and all of that. Let me pull up my multi-dice here, just so I'm ready. I'm going to play with the fact that they really don't care whether or not these bodies are discovered. It's just not something with them. And I'm going to go ahead and do a 3d6 for, the high chaos factor here. But I'm going to say 2 no's, we don't. 2 yeses, we do. Move the bodies, that is. And we'll see what happens. So it looks like both of these 3s are yes. They are in fact yeses. So they're also yeses and. So let's consult the Oracle and see. I'm sorry, not yeses and, but yeses but. So there's some sort of small issue, obstacle, or conflict that comes about with this. Well, that's interesting. We just fought some goblins, so what could possibly happen from here? But let's consult the Oracle. So I'm going to need my D100s, I believe. I don't think I need the D20. Yeah, just the verb and noun table. So let's consult the verb and noun table, shall we? D-hundos, you're up. And we have 40. Patrol. Ooh, okay. Alright, oh, exactly. Okay, so patrol. Patrol what? Okay, 48. Dragon. I really hope there's not a dragon down here. That would just be a TPK. Not interested. So let's re-roll on the noun. So we have patrol. 36. Refugee. Okay. Let's roll one more time, and then I think I will drop the noun portion of it But, you know, the patrol part that's exactly what I was talking about. 97. Trickster. Alright. So we've decided, yes, we're going to move the bodies, but we've run into a patrol. So let's check the Wandering Monster table in the Old Island Fortress and see what kind of patrols we come up with. So I'm going to need a D6. 5. Ooh, oh, okay. Well, out of the frying pan and into the fire, as the Hobbit chapter says. We just rolled on some skeletons. So we need to figure out, of a 1d8, how many skeletons there are. 2. Okay. Alright, that could be worse. That could be worse. So now I need to figure out where these skeletons are coming from. So it looks like I have a 5x5 room here, with the exception of these 4 corners. So we'll say a 1 to 5, or yeah, 1 to 5 north to south, and a 1 to 5 east to west, which would also be here. And if I get 1s or 5s on either, well, we'll just see what happens. It's an irregular shape, but ultimately this would be 5x5. So let's start there. So this will be north to south. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now we need to figure out east to west. 1. So it looks like the skeletons are going to be here. It's a really good thing I have a cleric. So I'll get them pulled up, and then we will gauge surprise and all of that, because there's a set of doors here. And does even the party notice that there are skeletons up here? So we've got some stuff to figure out. Okay, so here are our skeletons. Now, let's just keep it simple. Let's figure out surprise. Now, I don't believe the skeletons have the option for surprise. I may be wrong here. They probably just don't have an element for morale. Yeah, they have no option for morale, but I don't have an option for surprise for them. Okay. So they could be just as surprised as the party, so we'll just have to figure that out. Alright, so it looks like all of my party, with the exception of Druindar, are surprised on a 1 and 2. That seems to be the case. He's the only elf. And so let me roll for the party and see if any of them are surprised, and then I will also roll for the skeletons. Alright, so this is the party, and then I'm going to go ahead and roll the skellies as well. So, Aldrich is not surprised. The skeletons are not surprised. Baldric is surprised. Fritz is surprised. So it's literally just Fritz and Baldric that are surprised. Yeah, I'm going to assume that it's obvious that these skeletons are not going to be very favorable to the party. And they're going to, just attack immediately. So let me get my party out of here. and we'll assume that the dead goblins also at least made it to this point, because the ultimate goal is to dispose of them in some fashion. We haven't figured that out yet. Well, we've come to to dispose of the goblins, and then all of a sudden we are attacked by a pair of skeletons, and they are attacking. It just makes sense. So with that, I'm going to roll initiative. We have surprise for Baldric and Fritz, and so they will not have initiative this round, but everybody else will. Let me add the skeletons to initiative, and we will go from there. Okay. So now, Aldrich, not Baldric. We have Druendar, Giselmund, Magenhild, but not Fritz. And then we have our skeletons. Alright, so Aldrich is up first. Now, skeletons being special, I don't have any... His parents were alchemists, so he has a bit of an alchemical background, but would that be enough to know the fact that skeletons take half damage from edged weapons and only a single point from arrows, bolts, or sling stones? Alchemy, you know what? I'm going to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt with that. I'm going to roll a perception check on Aldrich to see if he knows anything about skeletons. Womp womp. Critical failure, has no idea. Okay. So with that, it's going to be his turn, and we are going to go in, and the skeletons are advancing. They are not responding to anything, so we're just going to play that as is. Okay. Aldrich is going to move. See, he can move 20 feet per encounter, and so 1, 2. He does have his longbow, and we are within range, so I think it would be wise to not just move, but to make an attack. So we're going to roll with his longbow at skeleton number... one. Alright. 5. Womp womp. Womp womp. Okay. Nice try, Aldrich. Next is Giselmund. Now, would Giselmund have any... I don't have a background for Giselmund, so I'm just going to give him the raw perception check. So, let's get Giselmund's dice up. Does Giselmund know how to kill a skeleton? 20. Oh, okay. So Giselmund, especially after Aldrich's failed arrow attack, chimes into the party, hey, these skeletons are undead. They can be turned by a cleric, but they only take only a bit of damage from arrows, bolts, and sling stones, but the damage that you think you would deal with an edged weapon only seems to be about half. So, swing hard, swing fast, let's take these guys out. And with that speech, Giselmund moves up, and he is going to use his... Well, he's going to want to use his longsword. He knows better. But he can... Well, he can move 30 feet. So, assuming... I'd say that's within 30 feet. To kind of just, here's 10 feet, 10 feet. So that's 20. That's within his range. So he can come up here and get within melee combat of this skeleton. And he's going to use his longsword on skeleton number 2. So here's to another super duper D20 roll, because this would have been sweet. 9. Just not enough, my dwarf friend. Well, thank you for imparting the wisdom, though. Next up, Magenhild. Alright, so Magenhild, having heard the instructions from his new dwarf compadre, is going to move up 30 feet as he can and join his dwarf comrade, and he's going to swing his longsword +1. Oh, what's with the nat ones? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We're gonna die at the hands of the skellies. It's now the skeleton's turn, because they went with Magenhild. So they're also going to... Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They can move 40 feet in a round. So they could attack literally anybody. So let's figure it out. We've got 6 party members. So let's assign a number, and honestly, I'm going to assign whatever number I assign today will be the number that we have from here on in for our random number. For the times that we have to use a random number for something like this. I think that's the most fair when it comes to attacks. Okay, alright, so it's going to be Aldrich is number 1, Baldric is number 2, Druendar 3, Fritz 4, Giselman 5, and Magenhild 6. So with that, we are going to roll a d6. 1. Oh. So he's coming for Aldrich. Which, well... Alright, so this is going to be skeleton number 1. We are going to do the attack of skeleton number 2. Remember, I roll monster collectives as a singular die. So this is skeleton number 1. He's coming for Aldrich. Please don't kill my please don't kill my hero. All right, so he's coming up and he has his longsword. Nice. All right, so boom, boom, boom. He's going to attack Aldrich for a total of 7. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is not looking good for Aldrich Folk, our main character and hero. Now we need to figure out what skeleton number 2 attacks for, or whom skeleton number 2 attacks. Alright, so another d6. 3. That is going to be Druendar. Let's see, can he make for Druendar? Now, honestly, if he can move 40 feet, he can make this. So, okay. And a 1d8 for our skeleton foe. 4. Oh. 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 That's a really big blow to the party. I almost want to check the morale of the party. Let's just see what happens, and we'll play it by ear. Again, and I'm not afraid of death for our characters, but I also have the death-defying injury table as well. So let's just continue to see what happens. Let's see, that was Magenhild and the Skelly's turn. Now it's Durundar, who is severely wounded. So hopefully we can make a hit. This isn't looking good for the party. Alright, so Durundar is going to attack skeleton number 2 just for proximity purposes. And also for some sweet revenge for having hit him. So, here we go. $11. That's a hit. That is a hit. That is a hit. Okay. So, Skelly number 2. Okay, alright. So, we'll see about damage. Man. Alright, actually, perfect. Because it's, for damage, it's plus strength. So, skeleton number 2 goes down. Awesome. Some good news for the party. Sort of. Part of which are bleeding profusely, we can assume. Alright, okay. Fritz and Baldric do not have initiative yet. They were surprised, so we're gonna cycle back to Aldrich, but we are going to roll initiative on Baldric and Fritz. Baldric is purple and Fritz is ice. So purple and ice. Alright. Baldric gets a +2 for being a halfling. So he is 6. So it's actually his turn this time. Ostensibly, we need to see what Fritz has. Fritz also has a +2. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so it's actually Fritz's turn. So that's what happens when you just guess. Alright, so we have Fritz up now. And Fritz, does Fritz want to turn or does Fritz want to smash? Honestly, we have the turn option, and so let's get our cleric up. I don't know how Baldric wound up over here, but it doesn't matter. Alright, so here's our cleric. Alright, Fritz is going to go ahead and move the 20 feet over to the skeleton, and he's going to brandish his holy symbol, and he is going to call upon the god Ta and say, "Turn ye away, Skeletoid." And we're going to roll on that. 16. Oh, fantastic. So, the skeleton turns. I don't have any destroy on my undead yet, I don't believe. So let me double check. I don't. So, but Fritz absolutely just turns this guy. He is Just not interested. So the party successfully defeated one skeleton and Fritz turned another, and so that's fantastic. Okay, the skeletons have been taken care of, but we now have an issue where 2 of our party members are very seriously damaged. So I think the smartest thing to do from here would be to get Aldrich and Druindar out of here for healing. They've got to rest up. Aldrich took 7 of 9 damage, and Druindar took 4 of 6. So they're very seriously wounded. So I think we need to leave the goblins behind for the moment, as well as the now pile of bones for the skeletons, the dead body of Norin Furmoon, and head back into town and rest and kind of recuperate and try to figure out what we're going to do next. Also to note, I kind of did the turn undead thing a little incorrect. I had an opportunity to reread the section. I'm not really familiar with turn undead. I've never really played clerics, and I have one cleric in the game that I normally run, but she has not been super successful on most of her turn undead checks. But since the other part of it was after the D20, it was 2d6 to figure out the number of hit dice that you do turn, and a skeleton is 1 hit die. I'm not too worried about it. Fritz ultimately successfully turned this skeleton. I'm just going to go ahead and call that a fair deal. So, obviously the next thing we need to do is we need to get the party back into town. We have this trap here to contend with. We have all of this to traverse before we ultimately get out, and then we have to make it back into town. So, we know the trap is here, so now would be a good time to showcase the thief ability of Remove Trap, and hopefully we can get that taken care of, and then we'll make our way out of here. So with that, I think that we ultimately sit at 12 turns for the lantern. I might be incorrect on that. Really a whole lot to do here when you're playing solo. But we're just going to keep it at 12 of 21. We still have our Dark Vision characters, Druindar and Giselman. But the lantern's still going, so we're just going to keep that. I'm sorry, I'm circling over here with the dead goblins. The party is here. So we're going to go ahead and move, and of course I'm just going to do wandering monster checks as normal, and hopefully the party can make it out, and the party can get back to Morgansfort before something serious befalls Aldrich and Druindar. So we're going to sidestep these skellies here. Just kind of come this way. They're just piles of bone right now, but we're gonna bypass that. And so now we're gonna have our thieves come up. I don't have my... I was doing something in between on my breaks, making sure that I don't believe that when I was initially recording earlier that the die sound was registering on the recording, but hopefully now everything sounds better. Alright, so I've got my multicolored dice up, and we're going to have Aldrich and Giselmund is the white. We're going to do a remove trap check for both of them. Let me get their sheets up here. Try to keep them in alphabetical order. But now, I need these two guys. Alright, so it looks like I need a 20 or lower for either of them to be able to remove this trap. Not going to happen. We got 71, we got 62. Not very helpful. Now, I know Fritz has Cure Light Wounds, but that would only be effective to one character. So, let me see if anybody's got a potion of healing. I don't believe anybody does. We just started this. Would it be nice if a potion of healing just all of a sudden... Oh, I've got a potion of ESP for Fritz. That must have been from the previous game, and I decided to keep it. That's really not helpful. Not at the moment, anyway. So I have Cure Light Wounds once. Now, neither of them are dead, so we could ultimately hole up here. I'm sure I have Iron Spikes that I could... Yeah, I have Iron Spikes on at least one character of the ones that I have turned over. Nope, looks like I have two, so a bare minimum of 24. Yeah, I've got 24 Iron Spikes. So we could attempt to, bar these doors with spikes. Do that with my party all the time. So we could effectively hole up in this room and have Fritz do a Cure Light Wounds on one of them, and kind of make a random roll on that to figure out who. But I do want to try to get out of here first. Or there's a possibility, I guess I could possibly try to split the Cure Light Wounds. Fritz puts his hands over both characters, and then I roll the d6, and whatever number I get is halved, and we'll round down. So, like, if I get a 7, we'll count it as a 6, and they both get a 3 hit point save. I guess I should read a little closer on Cure Light Wounds. I know it acts like a potion of healing where you get a 1d6 plus 1, I believe. But let me double check on Cure Light Wounds to make sure I understand it like I think I do. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I did understand the rules. It is a 1d6 plus 1. And the rules kind of like... They don't stipulate that it's necessarily one individual creature or person or whatever. So there's the possibility of interpreting it that with, because it says, with this spell, the caster heals 1d6 plus 1 hit points of damage by laying his or her hand upon the creature, the injured creature. Now that's really just not to say that, the caster has 2 hands, ostensibly. Like, we assume that there's going to be 2 hands. That it doesn't say that it can only, it's not, it's not specific that it only has to be the one creature. It's a hand upon the injured creature. So I think what I'm going to do, if I will check the remove trap check one more time, then I may kind of split the result between Aldrich and Druindar and have Fritz cast it on both. So if we get a 6, we'll treat it at, that's 6 plus 1, that's 7. We'll treat it as 6 and both get 3. So anyway, let's try our remove trap check again. Yeah, we got 65 and 66. And it's one of those things where, like, they're so close again. I think I'm going to do it... I didn't mean to close that. I'm going to do it one more time. Alright, 97 and 55. So no, that's just... They are not able to remove the trap. So I think the smartest thing to do from this point would be to bar these 3 doors here with spikes. And, we don't have to really worry about this one. It's got the trap on it. And do the split the result on Aldrich and Druindar. So I'm going to go ahead and have Fritz cast Cure Light Wounds on Druindar and Aldrich both. And he is the ice-colored dice. So, like, here's hoping for a 6. A 2. Alright, so they both get 1 HP. Not super helpful. Not super helpful when they, you know, Aldrich's been hit 7 of 9, and Druindar's been hit 4 of 6. But it's something. And then the party still has a week's rations, but they really don't have water. This might be one of those things where it's better to move forward than to go back. But we can give them the opportunity to rest. And I believe the rules as written on rest are 1 HP per full 8 hours of sleep. I will double check that. Alright, so as described in the equipment section above, normal characters must consume 1 day's worth of rations or equivalent food and at least 1 quart of water per day. So they must have a quart, and I believe the water skins are only a quart. One quart of liquid in the water skin. Okay. So we all have 1 day's worth of water at least. Now I need to figure out the healing of HP. So I'm going to pause and kind of find that real quick, and then I'll show it to you guys, and then we'll move from there. Okay, what I was looking for was under Encounter. The chapter of Encounter in the basic fantasy rules. Characters recover 1 HP of damage every day, provided that normal sleep is possible. Characters who choose full bed rest regain an additional HP each evening. So that is 6 hours of sleep out of every 24. And then I can do their Constitution bonus with that. So with Aldrich, let me get both of them up here. So Aldrich has a +1 to Constitution, but Druindar has a +0. So Aldrich only needs 5 hours of sleep. Druindar is going to require 6. And tell you what, I'm going to give my thieves one more opportunity. One more opportunity to be able to disable this trap. Oh, I may have hit. Yeah, it looks like Giselmund can disable this trap. So it's been, let's assume, an hour each time. So I did 4 rolls, so it's been 4 hours. Which actually means I need to mark on the lamp again. But we still have the fact that, you know, after hour 3, Fritz did a Cure Light Wounds. Which is fine because, you know, once we leave here, Fritz can pray for another spell. He can pray for another instance of Cure Light Wounds or whatever else I decide. Obviously that sounds like I'll be keeping that. But we should be able to escape the dungeon and get out of here. But of course, that's up to Wandering Monster, which I've not done for the last 3 checks. But if we're going to assume that each check has been an hour of our thieves kind of tinkering with it, and then ultimately Giselmund, boom, I've got it, then I think that's a fair thing for our low-level thieves. You know, maybe at a higher level it doesn't take so long, but let's assume a full hour has passed for each of our thieves to... I don't mean an hour per thief, but I mean like an hour with both of them kind of tinkering around with it. I think that's kind of fair. So we'll assume 4 hours have passed, which means I definitely need to make some Wandering Monster checks. Okay, so according to the module, wandering monster checks are supposed to be taken every 3 turns, so every 30 minutes. And that ultimately means that I would have to make 8 wandering monster checks for the last 4 hours. I'm going to go ahead and stretch that to 1 hour, because I know I'm pretty much guaranteed a 1 on the D6 for a wandering monster check if I did 8 of them. 4, however, gives me a little breathing room, so hopefully I don't get a 1. So I guess we'll just roll I'm going to roll a die for every hour. Shoot. My party cannot catch a break here. So it looks like we have a 1. Now, what is our monster? So I need a D6. 6. Sturges. And we have 5 left of those that are in the module. Alright, well, it's 1d6 Sturges. Let's figure it out. 4. Oh my gosh. Okay. So with that, let me get these 4 Sturges pulled up and figure out where they appear. And then we're going to figure out what the strategy is here. I think the smartest thing that we could do with 2 parties so heavily injured is probably escape. And there was a really cool escape table on one of the issues in D12 that I came across recently. I'll likely run that, but we also need to check reaction and all of that. So there's some things we need to do. Let me get these Sturges pulled up. So 1 to 5. 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 again here. Now 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like we might have left the door ajar, and all of a sudden some Sturges squeaked in while we were tinkering with the trap. Okay, fair enough. Okay. So we have Sturges 3 through 6 right here. Now we need to figure out what we're going to do. So let's check monster reaction to start with. I think that's a very fair place to start. And then once we check monster reaction, we can go about figuring out what we're going to do about it. Maybe they're okay. Maybe they have no interest in us. They're not sentient like we are. So maybe the issue that we had with the previous 2 Sturges doesn't really seem to bother them. So let's check that. 10. Alright, so it looks like they're in a favorable reaction to us. That's also with the charisma of the lead character, which honestly is Aldrich. For better or worse in this department. No, it's pretty good, so it's an 11. So they're incredibly favorable to us. They don't seem to want to attack us. So now I think the best thing that we can do, since they're not going to attack us, or at least they're not appearing to want to attack us, that now that the trap has been disabled, we need to go ahead and try to move across the trap to the door. So I will move the party 1 space forward, and then I'll roll again on reaction. And we'll see what happens. Alright, so now we're at the door. 9, 10. Okay, so we're still in a very favorable position. We might be able to just squeak out the door. So now we open the door. Let me just... Alright, 9, 10 again. So we're good. The Sturges are not interested in us. We are just going to move. And I don't think that violates any rules on the Sturge. Just so I can share with you guys. Sturge's coloration ranges from rust brown to reddish brown with a dirty yellow underside. The proboscis is pink at the tip, fading to gray at the base. The Sturge's body is about 1 foot long with a wingspan of about 2 feet. Weighs about a pound. If the Sturge hits a creature, blood drain 1d4 on initiative, which unfortunately Aldrich has already faced. There's really no indication of its general temper. So we're going to go on ahead and we're gonna try to boot Scoot and Boogie out of here. All right, so that was 1, 2, 3. Now I'll need to make a check here in another 3. 1, 2. Actually, now's a good time for us to kind of like peer in here and see if there's anything in here. And we're gonna go back to an Oracle check. Is there anything in this hexagonal room? 6. That's a no. Not a no but, not a no and, I don't care. No, nothing else is in this room but this dead Sturge. We're going to make another step. Alright, that marks 1 turn. So we get into the room, and we make our way toward the exit door. Now, is there anything in the corridor? Yes. So this is a random event generator and verb noun table. And because it's a yes, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do it. 1. Unexpected ally appears. Okay. This looks pretty favorable to the party. Let's check the verb noun table. 5. Explore. 19. Explore puzzle. Alright, one more time on the 55. Insist. 65. Insist mage. 99. Transform. 62. Transform knight. Alright, so let's just keep the noun as it is. Now it'll either be a mage or a knight. I've rolled on both of those. You know what? What if it's another magic fighter magic user? That would be interesting. So another fighter magic user meets us in this corridor here, right at the entrance. So now the question is, do we know this guy or not? So I'm going to check the Oracle one more time on this. We encountered an ally. It's a fighter magic user. I'm going to make good on, I'm going to make good use of both of those. But let's see if we know this guy. So, oh, Magic 8 Ball, do we know this guy? No. Okay. Is he friendly? Yes. Okay. So, we don't know this guy, but he's friendly. He sees that we are dragging out Druindar and Aldrich, and we need to get them to Morgansfort, so he's more than happy to help. And so with that, the party escapes the old island fortress and makes their way back to Morgansfort. It is now, I assume, an evening time. We've been in here for a while, so I'm going to roll a d12 on, whatever time PM. 2 p.m. It's a lot for 2 p.m. We came in here at like 10 or 11. Alright, 3. Okay. Okay. We've only been in here like, 4 or 5 hours. But honestly, we've done a lot. And actually, based on the... Oh, you know what? So, let's do a +4 on that. Because we did the trap check up here. So, I'm going to say it's 7 o'clock. So it's 7 o'clock in the evening. It is dusk. So we're leaving, and we make our way back to Morgansfort. We get there at about 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm just going to streamline that. And so we get back to Morgansfort. Alright, so we've made our way back to Morgansfort. And the party heads back over in the direction of the Toothless Dragon, the Iron Helm, and the Chapel of St. Quirrell. So previously we have used Father Felbane's reluctant services as a healer. He's a possibility, but, well, let's ask. Does the party want to inquire for Father Felbane? They do. Okay. So, let's bring us over to the Chapel of St. Quirrell, and we're knocking on the door. Does Father Felbane himself answer? Yes. Okay. So, Father Felbane happens to be the guy. Let me zoom in here and kind of blow his token up a little bit. I don't care if it's entirely accurate. Okay. So, Father Felbane meets the party at the door. Now, what is his attitude? Need to roll a d12. 7. Alright, so he's curious. That's interesting. He was kind of irritable last time we saw him. So let's kind of play around with this for a little bit. Curious. Let me roll it again and let me see what happens. Because, I mean, he was kind of miffed. He was kind of miffed when we brought Magenhild back from his injuries. And now we have 2 of the party who are injured, and he has told us repeatedly to stay away from the old island fortress. And, you know, part of that could be, you know, he's looking out for our well-being, and he thinks that Father Cormac, who is the Bethite priest, who is, you know, in the real-world analogy here, Father Felbane is like a high church Protestant cleric, and then Father Cormac is a Catholic priest. So there's kind of that contention. We could easily chalk it up to that the Reformed Church of Ta cleric here is telling us that, you know, trying to warn us that the crazy Catholic priest is trying to get, you know, the party killed. But we have developed a level of trust with Father Cormac. And so far the party has been moving forward, but clearly the dungeon is incredibly dangerous. So it could be just that superficial, that Father Felbane is really just trying to look out for the party, and he's concerned that the Bethite priest is trying to send them off into some crazy venture that might get them killed. On the other hand, there could be something deeper here. You know, maybe Father Felbane knows something and is trying to keep quiet something. You know, going back to our original issues, we have the Goblin and Kobold skirmish. We have an orc raiding party that is trying to steal young women. And then we have rumors of a necromancer. And when we talked to Father Felbane, he was very dismissive of everything that we said. He was just wasn't interested, wasn't having it, none of it's true. But Father Cormac believes that all of it's true. So somebody's right, and somebody is not. So the curiosity roll on Father Felbane doesn't quite match his attitude toward us previously. So let me roll again. 10. Cordial. Okay, I'm going to give it one more, and then I'm just going to RP it. 3. Suspicious. Okay, alright, suspicious. Why are you guys knocking on my door again? Now let's see if we can find some sort of motivation for this. that the PCs don't know that, but we would. Redemption. I've not really seen any redemptive qualities out of Father Thelbane yet. He's just been kind of a standoffish jerk. And he's not really been super helpful. He's been kind of stonewalling us. Let me give it another go. Love. Fear. Okay. 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 Alright, fear makes sense. So he is motivated by fear. And he's suspicious of the party. He's already been kind of like aggressive and certainly very indifferent and kind of stonewallish with this. And now he's suspicious and he's fearful. Okay. Now, can any of the party detect that? Let's do a perception check on everybody who's likely just not unconscious. Because I would assume by this point, with Aldrich and Durandar both having been severely injured, they're kind of in an unconscious state. They're certainly at least in shock. I mean, like, if I lost 7/9 or 4/6 of my health, I would be I'd be pretty much in shock. So of our characters that are not in shock and not probably a little delirious, let's make a perception check. So I guess something I didn't RP yet was like, Father Thelbane is like, why are you back? He's a little aggressive. We've dealt with that before from him. And so the only person that he recognizes is Maganil. These other three he's not aware of, or hasn't met them personally yet, at least not in-game, perhaps at a previous time. And that might ample the suspicion. Maybe he has run into these characters before, but he's not formally engaged with them. So that might ample the suspicion. So let's try to figure out if the party is aware that he's suspicious. So we have Baldric, Giselmund, Fritz, and Maganil. Alright, so a 15 for Baldric, but he doesn't have any wisdom modifier. Fritz doesn't have a wisdom modifier either, so they don't really detect his suspicion. But I would assume that his irritation is a little palpable. So they don't notice that he is suspicious and ultimately motivated by fear, which I'm going to note. So the party's not able to discern his suspicion, much less his fear. So we're going to, the party's just going to ask, Father, can you heal Aldrich and Durandar? And with that, I'm going to roll on just the standard monster reaction table, because I don't really have another reaction table to use. And so we'll see if Father Thelbane, how he reacts. Alright, so he's favorable. And even, I don't have to really do a charisma check on anybody. That's funny, earlier when I made the charisma check for the monsters, I was adding a +1 because I was looking at Aldrich's constitution, not his charisma. I don't know what I was thinking. It doesn't matter. They still, all of the checks really didn't hang in the balance with a 1 being the decider, so not a big deal. But anyway, so Father Thelbane is favorable. He's going to go ahead and cure these guys. And I believe last time we used a spell that was in the new spell supplement. Let me double check that. No, he actually uses a standard 6th level cleric spell called Regenerate. So let me pull that up. Okay, that was for missing limbs or, severed body members. Let me see if there's another spell that's a little more applicable here. But honestly, though, Regenerate could fully heal them. Let me see if there's Cure Heavy Wounds. Cure Serious Wounds, rather. Let me see if that makes more sense. Alright, so Cure Serious Wounds would make sense, because I don't believe that we have any severed members. They just got hit really hard. So let's roll on a Cure Serious Wound for both. I believe that's applicable for a 6th level cleric. And I totes made a mistake. Last time, it occurs to me now that I made an absolute oopsie. I let Father Thelbane, as a 6th level cleric, cast a 6th level cleric spell, which is not the case when you look at his chart. I'm not entirely sure what I was thinking. Maybe it's just my lack of knowledge of clerics. I only have the one in my normal game. But I absolutely oopsied. Because Father Thelbane is a 6th level cleric, but can only cast, at any given point he can get 2 level 1 spells, 2 level 2 spells, and 1 level 3 spell. And I gave him the ability to cast at least 1 level 6 spell, so I almost doubled his level. So, in spite of the miraculous thing that happened for Magenhild, courtesy of Father Thelbane, I'm not going to be able to do that again. But Father Thelbane can cast 2 instances of Cure Light Wounds. And, we already had an instance of that from Fritz. And I think we will go on ahead and ask Father to cast Cure Light Wounds twice. Once on Aldrich and once on Druindar, and kind of get them up a little higher in HP than Fritz was able to. So let's go ahead and cast our 1d6 for Aldrich, and then for Druindar, who is the blue dice. Alright, so Aldrich gets a +4 and Druindar a +6, which actually pretty much heals Druindar. Yeah, so Druindar is fully healed. Aldrich will still have some recovery time, because even with the -4, he still has 2 HP down, so he's going to require a little bit of rest. So we're going to go ahead and head into the Iron Helm, and we're going to get rooms for everybody. Aldrich already has his room, assuming it's still there. And then we're going to spend some time in Morgansfort, but it won't be very long. We're going to head right back into the old island fortress. But does Father Thelbane have anything that he wants to say before the party retires? Yes. It's a yes, but. So let's go ahead and check our verb noun table. Maybe there's something that would move the story a little in a different direction. So, verb 16. Celebrate. Okay. Celebrate. Wanderer. Okay. So, he was suspicious. Previously, he's been kind of a mixture between irritated and he's been kind of a mixture of irritable and stonewallish on this. But I guess the only thing he has to say is that he's glad that we've made it out alive again. This is our third trip, at least with Aldrich. We had Aldrich, who suffered from the Sturge, and we had Magenhild, who suffered from a terrible bite from a giant crab spider, and now we're back after our encounter with the skeletons. So I guess he's just grateful we're here. But we still have the fact that he is motivated by fear. Now, I want to check his mood now. 10. Cordial. Okay. So, a little suspicious up front. Then he healed the characters, and now he's being cordial about it. This is not really what we know about Father Thelme. He's been kind of a pain in the butt. He and his underlings have been very stonewallish and a bit aggressive to the party. So I don't know if there's anything deeper here. He's motivated by fear. Can the party, before we leave, perceive any underlying intentions of our parson here? Doesn't look like anybody. Okay. So the party's kind of in the dark on this, but we know he's acting weird. But with that, we're going to go ahead and move over to the Iron Helm, and everybody who needs a room is going to get a room. Let's head over there and see if our proprietor who doesn't appear to be in at the moment. Alright, let's say that, well, let's check to see if he is in. Yes, he is in. Let's see if we're able to speak to Lauren. So we're going to head in and talk to the nice halfling lady who is behind the counter. Is Master Lauren in? She says no. Are you sure? We would really like to speak to him. Nope, she says no. So we're not able to speak to Master Lauren. And so everybody just shells out the coin necessary to get a room. And we're going to rest for a few days. Let's see how many days. I'm going to roll a 1 to 7. 6 days. So we're going to be here less than a week. Just under a week. And so the party shells out the necessary coin, and then we're going to figure out what our next move is. Okay, so 6 days have passed in Morgansfort. Aldrich and Druindar both are feeling much better. Druindar got the full heal. Aldrich got the majority heal. Everybody's feeling better. So now we need to figure out if we're going to proceed back to the Old Island Fortress. And if so, is that our immediate move? Are we just going to head back? Or are we going to talk to some townsfolk? Maybe over at the Toothless Dragon. So let's figure that out. Magic Oracle. Is the party heading right back to the Old Island Fortress? No. Okay. Is the party going to speak to patrons at the Toothless Dragon? Well, a no again, but if they're there, what else could they be doing? They could restock on some supplies. They could hit the armory. There are a few things they could do, but let's roll one more time. Are we going to speak to townsfolk, perhaps patrons in the Toothless Dragon? Alright, so now we get a yes. A little bit of a different one. So we are going back to the Toothless Dragon, and we're going to talk to some townsfolk. There are 6 of us now. And we've been in the old island fortress a few times. Perhaps we can hear some more rumors. So we are back into the Toothless Dragon. Now, is Garnoth in? No, he's not. Well, by this point, oh, it's a new day. So let's check that. It's a new day, so I do want to check weather and time. Okay, before we figure out whether or not Garnoth is in the Toothless Dragon, let's do a 1 of 2 for AM or PM. Alright, so it's in the PM. What hour in the PM? 4 PM. Okay. Now, let's roll on weather. Alright, so it is cloudy. Now, I need to figure out if there is precipitation in the next 24 hours. No precipitation. So, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's cloudy, but it does not look like precipitation in the next 24 hours. Now, as we enter the Toothless Dragon, is Garnoth there? Yes, Garnoth is there. So he hails Aldrich as soon as he sees him, and I'd say even Maganil, and, just like, who are these people that you have with them? Actually, does Garnoth know the other 4 party members? Yes, okay, so actually, Garnoth says hail to Aldrich and Maganhild and to the rest of the party. And he's thrilled to see you guys together, and he's glad to see you guys. It had been, by this point, probably a whole week. We don't know what happened over the last 6 days. I'm not willing to roll on that. We're just going to streamline it. And over the last 6 days, plus the time that we spent in the dungeon, it's been a week since we've been in the Toothless Dragon. Although, not to be too stereotypical to our dwarf friend, but I'll be willing to bet that Giselman has been in the Toothless Dragon a time or two. Actually, let's just say that Giselman has been... Giselman, it's good to see you. Aldrich and Maganhild and the rest of the party, too. My goodness, Giselman's been keeping me in business this whole time. And so, does Aldrich want to drink? He does not. Does any of the rest of the party want to drink? So, Giselman wants a beer. But the rest of the party's not interested. And so now we're going to go over rumors in Morgansfort. And so how I'm going to do that is I'm going to roll a d6, match it up to the number that I've previously assigned to each character, and then I'll roll the d12 on the rumor table, discarding any rumors that we've already heard, that Aldrich has already heard, and then I will roll a perception check and determine whether or not a PC believes this rumor, with the default being they believe it. And if the rumor is false, and the PC passes his perception check, then he'll recognize it as false. He'll perceive that it's false. So I think that's a fair way to go about it. Let's roll our d6 and we'll figure out our first character. And it is 5, and that is Gizelmund. So here is the rumor that Gizelmund hears. Nobody has ever returned from the lakes a few days' travel south. So I'll add that to our rumor table. Now, does Gizelmund perceive whether or not this is true? Again, this will be an assumption of yes, unless it is false and the character is able to pass the perception check and call it out. 1. So, Gizelmund just absolutely just buys that, whether it is true or not. Now, we'll roll another d6. 4. That is Fritz. So here is the rumor that Fritz has heard. The river around the collapsed bridge is full of giant crocodiles. Does Fritz perceive any deception with that? 14 plus wisdom. So, no, Fritz believes it. Okay. Next up is Magenhild. Alright, Magenhild, what rumor do you hear? Goblin war parties have been seen in the area. Let's roll again. Okay. An adventurer wearing magic armor never returned from the old island fortress. Okay. How does Magenhild perceive this? Does he believe this rumor? Yes, he does. Alright. Alright. 4 has already been done. 6 has already been done. 1. Aldrich, you are up, sir. Now, what rumor do you hear? There's an odd spin on that. Okay, 4. Hostilities between the goblins and kobolds have broken out in the area. We've heard that. We've heard this one. Orcs have been trying to abduct a fair maiden during their raids in the north. Okay. We've heard this one, at least Gizelmund has, that nobody has ever returned from the lakes a few days travel to the south. Okay. Same thing. A low-level necromancer named Starcell Zalinth disappeared while searching for an ancient... Yeah, we've heard this one. Alright. I don't think... No, we've not heard this one yet. So, piles of magic armor are hoarded in the dungeons beneath the ancient fortress in the middle of the river. Okay. Does Aldrich perceive any deception in this? He does not, so he believes it's true. Okay. So now we just have Baldric and Durandar. Alright, Druindar, you're up. What is your rumor? A group of adventurers has hidden a boat in the swamp south of the collapsed bridge. Does Baldric perceive any deception here? Alright, he actually, 15 plus his 2 on wisdom. He does perceive this to be false. Okay. So now Baldric is left, and we will not roll his number. We're just going to move forward. What rumor does Baldric hear? We've heard that one. We've heard that one. Alright, so an ancient barbarian chieftain is entombed within the ruins on the nearby island. He is said to have owned a magic sword. Okay. That is a fresh one here. Does Baldric believe it? Not only does he believe it, he trusts the guy who said it, so... Okay, so we have some new rumors here. Some are false, some are not. I'm torn between telling you guys. Our PCs, you know what? We're all in this together. So, of the rumors that we've heard, here are the false ones, here are the true ones, and then we'll go over who believes what. So, our first one was Giselmund, and he heard nobody has ever returned from the lakes a few days' travel south. That's false, but Giselmund believes it's true. The river around the collapsed bridge is full of giant crocodiles. Fritz heard that, and he believes it, but it's false. Magenhild heard an adventurer wearing magic armor never returned from the old island fortress. He believes it, and it's true. Piles of magic armor are hoarded in the dungeons beneath the ancient fortress in the middle of the river. Aldrich believes that, and it's true. A group of adventurers has hidden a boat in the swamp south of the collapsed bridge. It's false, and Druindar recognized it as false. An ancient barbarian chieftain is entombed within the ruins on the nearby island. He's said to have owned a magic sword. Baldric believes it, and it's true. So we have some rumors to go on. Some are believed that are false. Some are believed that are true. It looks like Druindar did a good job of not believing something about a group of adventurers having hidden a boat in the swamp south of the collapsed bridge. So we have some things to go on. And it all looks like ultimately the old island fortress has some booty that we want. So we need to get back there. So let's kind of streamline the fact that the party heard these rumors, and even the ones that are false all point to the old island fortress, which is where Father Cormac pointed us. So it looks like after all of this, we really have more of a motivation to get back into the old island fortress and really explore it. So I think it's fair to say that we're going to explore the old island fortress just kind of right away. We probably ought to replenish supplies while we're here and make plans for another delve. And I think that this is a good point to stop the episode and kind of pick back up on the next episode. So with that, I'm going to sign off here, and I'll see you at episode 8, and we're going to go back into the old island fortress. And in between that time, our party is going to... We have a little bit of loot, but not really. But it might be the time to sell that loot and kind of upgrade weaponry as best we can. And try to come out swinging when it comes to this fortress. Like, it's clearly, like, at least how I've been rolling it, between the wandering monsters and the oracle, I just keep hitting so hard on this party. And in spite of the miracle that Father Thelbane gave to Magenhild when he got his jaw crushed, that I've kind of retconned in, but like going forward, I'm going to pay better attention to that. We're aware, like there are monsters down here, but it looks like the booty might be worthwhile, and so the adventurers are just kind of hearing this, and they've made their perception checks, and they're like, yeah, I believe it. Whether it's true or not for them, fortunately some of them, fortunately the default yes worked out for them, not necessarily with some other characters. But you hear rumors, and you naturally believe that they're true. And it looks like we have some really good rumors that are beneficial to the party if we get back into the old island fortress. I think the next move on the next episode is going to be upgrading any equipment that we can, kind of pooling whatever resources that we can, and trying to make a better attack on the fortress, and trying to get it cleared out, and then ultimately find any treasures that we have. We barely scratched the surface. It's a 2-level dungeon, I believe, and we've barely scratched the surface on the dungeon. And so far, we've had to come back to town 3 times to get, healing, and it's very clearly just a tough dungeon that we've been thrown into. And so I'm really looking forward to continuing onward. In the meantime, GM Wolfgang is out, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. And with episode 8, I really hope that we kick some serious tail when it comes to the OIF, the Old Island Fortress. So until then,